it's time to quilt. And this is my favorite part because usually when I'm excited about quilting, it's because I've had lots of time to think about it and I've given my brain the time it needs to really figure out what I want to quilt, because we spend so much time fretting over what do I quilt on it and what color do I use. And so when I give my brain time to think and then I realize what I want to quilt and then I can be excited about it, I love that process. So I have had lots of time to think about what I want to quilt on this because I've procrastinated, so it's time to get it done. But I think I have it all planned out and I'm excited. So in the clouds, I'm going to do this little free motion cloud-like shape, you know, swoopy and fun. And then in the water, I'll do a wave shape. And for the land, I'm going to do pebbles because I think it'll kind of look like treetops. So I'm going to do all of this free motion. And then for the actual wing, I think I'll just do a very few straight line quilting lines. And I might have to get creative. I bought the quilt clips recently and I'm still experimenting with them, but I'm thinking I can use these just to kind of put the quilt on the frame, like the whole quilt sandwich at the end, to reposition it because the wing is kind of diagonal, and so I really just want to be able to put the quilt on the frame with that wing lined up straight. So I'm going to experiment a little bit with that. Now, as far as thread color goes, if I have learned anything while quilting, it's that your thread color does not matter. I have quilted black on white and purple on green and all kinds of colors, and while it's fun and it might be fun to look at while you're quilting it, from the regular distance that you're going to look at the quilt thread just does not matter. It does not make the impact that you think it's going to. So I'm going to use gray because I think it'll blend in nicely, and I thought about changing colors at one point, but I don't really feel like it right now. So I'm going to use one color throughout, and I think the gray will blend nicely. And then the main thing that I want to make sure happens is I don't want like a weird color to be on the wing. So I don't want to use like a green on the wings, although I don't think it would even show. I just don't feel like changing colors. So I'm going to use gray throughout. So that's the plan. Now we need to choose backing. I remembered that I had cloud fabric. I mean, how perfect would that be? But I don't have enough. So I have this. Now this, I think, will be excellent. It's like the view from above, right? But let's look at a couple others just to make sure, because I have these like city ads, like the old-fashioned ads. They're really cool. So that one's California themed. Oh, this one's a big panel. Alaska. I think I like the idea of using the big panel, but I think I'd have to add borders to it. This one's cool too. Oh, if I had a Hawaii one, I'd be all over it. It doesn't really match Alaska. It doesn't really match California either. I think I'll just go with the streets. I think that's a nice option. I think it's beautiful. I think it matches the topic. So this is Grace, and previously I was quilting on the Juki that I stitched on, that I pieced the quilt together. I had her on this frame, and I used that for years. I loved her. She did really good work. She's a straight stitch only machine, and so she was fast. So that little 8-inch throat is what I did all of my quilts on, and I made it work. But you can't beat this. So I'm so excited. I've only done a couple quilts on her, so I'm still getting used to her. She's still getting used to me. We're learning a lot about each other along the way. So I did actually upgrade her because I bought the manual. So it's a Qnique 16X manual, but I did upgrade her to have the stitch regulation because I missed that. I had a stitch regulator attached to the Juki and I couldn't just plug that one into this one. So I had to actually upgrade her display, which I've been really happy with so far. So I'm gonna get this loaded on the frame and then try and just enjoy the process and have fun with it. So I'm a pretty lazy quilter when it comes down to it, but there are certain things that I always do. I try and measure the width of the quilt as I go along so that I can keep that consistent and adjust as necessary. It's not until later in this process that I realize I have not, in fact, secured my backing to this uptake bar. I'll realize it later, and thankfully everything behaved and I didn't really have any trouble with it. I just plain forgot and I did not realize it until later. But let's take a look at some quilting. I'm just going to have fun. They're not going to end up being exactly what I had imagined, but it's okay. I still am really happy with the result in the end, and I actually got some really good practice in. I mean, that's really the whole point here, is that you practice and you get better, and how are you going to practice unless you just jump in and do it? So I'm really glad I did this, and it's really nice to practice with organic shapes because they're more forgiving, because you don't have to worry about straight lines and do my lines match up, and it's a cloud. A cloud can be anything, so have fun with it. And if you're worried about your quilting, do something organic. Clouds, pebbles, waves, those are great things to practice with. Sometimes we need to practice before we do our actual quilting. In this case, I got to the part where I needed to put waves, and I thought, what does a wave look like? So I got my erasable ink pen and just drew it real quick, and that kind of got it firm in my mind and reminded me what a wave looks like. And it's okay if my waves are not consistent, and they definitely are not. The first row I went in one direction, and then coming back the other way I thought, well, I want to keep my waves going in the same direction, so I did on the second row. But then the third row, I think I accidentally sent the waves in the opposite direction, and I ended up liking it more. Now in the end, it's not going to show which way my waves go, and I know it's there, but it's not a big deal. But I got some good practice in again, and that's what matters. I'm just trying to get practice in and get better. Originally, I thought I would do some straight line quilting on the wing, but I honestly really like the way they kind of pop out, and it is just a wall hanging. It's too small to be anything else anyways, and so I don't have to quilt the wings, and I certainly don't want to add anything that would distract. I'm going to go with it for now. I can always add texture later if I want to, but for now I am really happy with this. I did the pebbles in the land, in the waves, in the water, and the clouds. And while they're not exactly what I had in mind, they worked out and I had fun doing them, and I think they're great. And when you look at it from even just 4 feet here, you really can't see the thread color. It really does not make as big of an impact as you would think. I love it so much, and I'm so glad I had the air inspiration that gave me the idea to use one of my favorite photos. So I am going to hang it on the wall here in my sewing room. It's not bound, but that's easy, so I'll take care of that later. But I love the quilting. I'm really happy with it. The only thing I might do in the future is I kind of want to add the look of an airplane window. So, you know, just that fuselage color curve all around it, just kind of framing it in, and then maybe something 3D, almost like that shade handle, you know, just up here at the top, just to mimic the idea of actually looking out the window. But I can do that another time too. I will be back up in the air next month. I'm heading to Oklahoma for a Legit Kits retreat there. For all of my events and my upcoming classes, you can check crankykangaroo.com and click on the upcoming events tab. I will be back in Hawaii in July for several classes there. So come see me in Hawaii and you can get your own photo out the plane window. I will also be on a quilting cruise next July. So I have designed a quilt exclusively for the cruise. It's foundation paper piecing, and it's designed so that you can choose your difficulty level. So if you've never done foundation paper piecing before, you can choose more of the beginner version, or if you're a pro and you just want a fun project, maybe even a challenge, you can choose the more complicated version. So all of that information is also at crankykangaroo.com, and then click on the Quilting Cruise tab. So thank you for quilting with me. Happy sewing.